and run a business called Grand Oak Design and Branding. And what we specifically do is design brand identities for businesses. But we look at it not just from a purely graphic design point of view, we look at it from a marketing and a strategic point of view. So how does that impact your business throughout everything that you do, from your initial corporate stationery to your business cards, through to your letterheads, through to your corporate marketing collateral, through to your branding on your car, your social media, your website, and basically every touch point that somebody, your ideal customer or your potential customer, would have along their journey to interacting with your brand. So I developed this little presentation called Why Branding is Important for Your Business. And I suppose the important thing is to first ask, what is branding? Branding on its own is probably quite difficult and tricky to actually explain. So the first thing is I like to say is what it's not. So branding is not a logo. Branding is not your brand identity, and branding is not a product. Branding is basically the combination of all these defined by a person's perception. So it's your gut feel, how you interact and when you get involved with some product, a person's product, a company, and it's an experience that you have as opposed to a tangible and a thing, a product. And brands are defined by individuals, not companies, markets, or the public. So, does anybody recognize that brand? No, there is somebody that knows. So yes, that was basically this company's first attempt at branding. Back in 1976, when Apple was founded by then Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, that original logo was the logo that was actually developed. And it's basically a lithograph print of Isaac Newton with the apple falling on his head. Steve Jobs obviously decided that it wasn't good enough, as he probably did throughout his whole career. And he said it was too old-fashioned and also difficult to reproduce at a small size. So he wanted to do something new for the logo. And what he wanted was the name Apple and the logo to work together. So he hired a graphic designer by the name of Rob Janoff to come up with the new Apple logo. And Janoff's original logo was exactly what he designed there. The color spectrum and rainbow spectrum was actually a nod to the first color display that Apple brought out, and that was for the World Computer Fair in 1977. So that logo, the old logo, was basically kicked out, thrown out quickly, and this new logo replaced that Isaac Newton lithograph. And that logo has pretty much been in Apple's existence since the beginning. It obviously went through some various iterations when Steve Jobs came back because he left Apple and he came back to Apple in 1997. And the new logo, a monochromatic version, was introduced back in 1988. But it basically hasn't really changed in terms of the look and feel. People have made some minor adjustments and modifications to make it a little bit more symmetrical, because obviously back in 1977 it wasn't designed on a computer. But with computer technology you were able to get a better, smoother product. And it was just all the refinements based on the golden ratio and that. So basically everybody recognizes that logo, and it's one of the world's most famous and pretty simple logos. And back in 1998, when Steve Jobs decided to bring it back to simplicity and just a single color, it was almost a nod to what was happening in the future. And you'll see that trends today is logos and branding have gone quite simple. There's a few reasons for that. One of the reasons is that with modern technology and apps and things like that, those colorful and multi-dimensional and logos just don't work on apps, and they're difficult to read and get across what the business is. So Steve Jobs basically part of his thing was he wanted the people at Apple to think different. And he actually succeeded in making the world think different. Everything Apple does is consistent with that brand ethos of thinking differently. And they basically worked into people's thoughts, experiences, emotions, and worked on their gut feelings and, what can we do? Hence they introduced the iPad, the iPod back in the day, streaming music. And Apple's brand value is currently estimated at just over $140 billion. So to put it in comparison or relativity, the top brand in Australia is Woolworths, and that's valued at just under $12 billion. So you look at sort of the value of that Apple brand. And obviously their product range just keeps on going. So one of the things about the brand that Apple has, or brands, famous brands all over the world, they have and tap into that basic human emotion, and that's trust. So basically, if you trust somebody, you have faith in them, you're going to go buy something from them because you're going to get something. So there's a little formula that sort of goes something like that, where you have trust equals reliability and delight. And you can know that you can trust Apple's branding because of their products, their service, the organization is going to be reliable, and the products are going to be innovative and enjoyable to work with. So, why is branding important for your business? And is everybody here a business owner or?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, branding is important for your business because branding creates trust. When your company presents itself in a professional way, and then there's proof that your products are reliable, they're of a high quality, your potential customers are more likely and inclined to trust your company and trust who you are. And they're more comfortable in handing over their hard-earned cash. One of the other things is that branding improves recognition. Whilst generally branding, or people think branding is just the logo, that's not the be-all and end-all of it. Branding is, like I said, it's your gut feelings, it's the way your service and your organization deals with customers, it's the way they present themselves on social media, the way they present themselves on the website. But a logo obviously holds a lot of credibility for brands, and it brings that recognizability and that recognition to companies. I mean, if you think Coca-Cola and Nike, McDonald's, all those big brands, their logos are simple but synonymous, and people identify. They don't even need to see the brand name to know that those are those brands. Branding also supports your marketing efforts. Marketing obviously provides the path on how to get your brand out there, and the medium channels chosen, as well as the demographic that you target with in mind of your brand, is obviously one of those things that always helps and brings through the branding to your target market. Obviously your target market should be targeted at your ideal customers and recognize their needs. It should be consistent in its message, its tone, and the visual imagery throughout the various touch points. Believe it or not, branding motivates employees. If your business has employees, your company is a well-liked brand. Generally, people are going to enjoy working for your company. They're going to talk about that company. They're going to tell, hey, I work for this company, it's so good. You've got to go and work for them. We've got to buy our products, you've got to deal with us. And when your brand feels pride, your employees do as well. Sorry guys, that was...
Company ringtone.
Yes, so basically your employees are inspired to carry your vision and the mission of your company forward, and they tell people about it. The other thing is branding generates new revenue. Branding is obviously one of the best ways to get word of mouth or referral business. If people know your brand, they'll talk about it, they'll tell people about it, and those people will tell other people about it, and hopefully all those people come and buy your product. I mean, example is if you go out and buy something and you don't know enough about the brand, or you don't know what the product is, how can you tell your other friends about that? So how can you develop a solid branding strategy? There are a few ways to do it. Always have your customer in mind. Your brand must align itself with your customer's needs and wants. When starting a branding campaign, always have your customer in mind, and how will your branding capture your customer's attention? Create messaging that illustrates your value. Create simple and effective messages on why your brand should matter to your customer. You basically got to tell people, why me? Why should you buy from me? And that's the story that you create with your marketing message. But that message needs to be consistent throughout your branding. Otherwise, people get a disjointed idea and viewpoint of what your business is all about. Use emotion. If you give customers a reason to care and feel something about your brand, they have a reason to buy. Most people make purchasing decisions based on emotions, not logic. So people don't want to know, about the facts and figures. There are times when you're going to want to know that, but you want to know, you're going to buy a new car. Yes, you've got all the engine specs and that, but you buy a car because it looks good. It's the right color. You don't, and people do, they buy on emotions as opposed to logic. Logic backs it up, of course, but people do buy on emotions. So the branding needs to draw emotions from people. And then just, why do you need a clear brand message? So, brand identity is part of the whole branding thing, and it's the visual representation of your business. It represents what your clients see and feel when they come in contact with your business, and answers their what do you do. If it's not immediately obvious, people first heard Apple, you wouldn't know it does computers. And one of the little things that Rob Janoff did when he designed that logo was he introduced the bite because he was worried that people would think it might look like a cherry or a tomato. And the bite was also a sort of a nerdy play on words to the byte, which is the computer memory. So when you design a brand, it sort of can give you a hint as to what your business does through the use of imagery or icons. And it further just reinforces that link to your brand and what your products are. It's also very important to be clear about your message and make it easy for your audience to understand exactly what you do. And consistency throughout your branding message. So Burger King's a classic example because Burger King has copyright issues in Australia. It's called Hungry Jack's, but you can't really notice that there's any difference with the actual branding. So that brand message and everything is kept consistent and throughout. And it doesn't really matter on the geographical location. Take Coca-Cola. Doesn't matter what language it's in. Everybody knows that sort of swirly writing on a red can, and that's Coca-Cola. I mean, some of those brands that are really well known at the moment, like I said, they're dropping their name from the actual logo and their branding because the brand is so well recognized. Nike does it. McDonald's, McDonald's is doing ads now without even putting a logo on. So it's quite crazy, but people do relate, and you grow up with a brand. So when your brand message is clear, potential clients will have a very good idea of what you do and whether or not you'll be able to help them. You don't want to cause confusion because you want them to say yes, and confused minds are always negative and no. So it'll be easier for people to refer to you because they know exactly how to talk about your business. And there will also be no confusion in the marketplace. Your company's branding will be consistent throughout all the various touch points. Your business card and your stationery, your marketing collateral, your website, your social media pages, promotional materials, promotional events. And consistent communication is the key for people to get to recognize your brand and remember your brand, and that's what you want them to do. So it's just an example of a client, and just that consistency of branding throughout all the touch points, from folders through to their website, through to business cards, through to promotional flyers, vouchers. One of the things people always ask is, why do companies change their branding? You know, if you've got a good brand, why would you go and change it? Ask Steve Jobs. Basically, it may be a new business owner, as happened in the case of Apple. Steve Jobs came back into the company and wanted to either leave his mark or adapt the branding to make it better suited to what his vision was. Old logos for businesses that have been around for a long time might become dated. There might also be logos that were designed for trends at that particular time. So it's nice to update those logos then. The focus of your business might have changed. You might have started out doing window blinds or something like that when you started your business, and that was your core business. But as you evolved, you kind of looked and your business changed. You're now doing renovations. So there's another reason for businesses and why they change their branding and brand identities and logos. New technologies change the way branding is viewed. So with social media apps and things like that, it's obviously not legible or pertinent to have a big, bright, colourful logo that actually people can't read on that tiny little screen. So simplicity is the key. And then the other thing is that companies that have been around for a long time, and they might have had slight variations on their brand, they've got various marketing collateral that's out there in either on the web or in their branded marketing collateral, and it just provides that inconsistent look and feel. So people are kind of not sure, am I dealing with that company or am I dealing with this company? So you might update that branding and then have it all encompassing, as with the case study that I've got to show you. So it doesn't really matter what size of business you are. Everybody thinks, oh, you know, you've got to be a big business, got to have lots of money to be able to have a consistent or a great brand. You don't. You know, I think there's lots of good little businesses that do have a good brand. But having a good brand and a legible and a recognizable brand will help you achieve the goal of becoming a leader within your business. And when businesses focus on building valuable customer experiences, that trust effect, those customers actually become your brand ambassadors and they help sell your business for you. So this was just a case study that I did a couple of years ago for a company called M&B, and they building supplies company. And they've been around, this is their 51st year in business. And they originally started off basically being a wholesaler and retailer of doors. And the logo on the left there, that was the original logo. The name M&B comes from Bob Murray and Bill Baldock were the two guys that started the business, so M&B. And we had a look at it, and they had various bits and pieces of marketing collateral in the industry. Their website was filled with lots of different variations of the logo. Their brochures had different variations of the logo. I mean, some brochures were 10, 15 years old. They had stationery that they didn't want to get rid of, printed stationery, because we paid for it, we've got to keep it. And that had old logos on there. So we had a look at the business, and the brief there was that the business itself had three main divisions that they were to, I suppose, portray to the industry. The fact is that they were still doing, and these were just sort of a couple of logo variations on that. So they basically said, what is our core product line? We sell doors and we sell timber products. And encompassing that timber products is decking, both the plastic, the modular decking you get, and proper timber decking. And then they had a whole lot of other subsidiary products but those were the two core areas. So we looked at how we can interpret that. And basically we kind of came up with, there's the door and the cross section of a log and simplified down into sort of its raw state because of the three divisions. We had the three door shapes, the open door shapes, and the log just became a circle. From there, it was further developed, and we shifted around the quadrilateral elements, and loosely based, if you squint your eyes, you can kind of see a B and an M shape, the descendants of an M, to bring it back to the M and B side of the business. And also, if you look at the middle view, it's the shape, sort of a negative shape of a building with a side panel and either two doors or two windows. So it related back to that, and then bringing it all together into the logo, or the log circle. Then one of the other things is sort of adding the M and B, which was very strong in the industry, so they didn't want to lose that thing. But we brought back their quality building products, which was kind of taken off for some reason in the early 90s, and they just became M&B building products or building supplies. So we kind of went back to that quality building products because their product was a premium, and we wanted them to be recognized as a wholesaler or reseller of premium products. And there was just the variations in the vertical alignment of the logo, the horizontal alignment of the logo, and the color palette, and for the three divisions, so the doors and door furniture, timber solutions, and then the building supplies, the cements, the screws, and all those kind of things that are subsidiary products. So those are two cores of the doors and the timber solutions. And then it's just how does that relate through to their product range. So from promotional materials through to brochures, through to the website, through to corporate stationery, motor vehicle branding and signage, and developing icons that could be used within the business, also relating back to that simple imagery of the company. And that is it.
Wow, thank you, Mark. That was amazing.